Good evening, everybody. We'll give a minute here to get some people on board. Not paying attention here. Maybe. Never mind. We're a little bit late starting tonight. I had a bunch of stuff going on trying to get prepped for vacation, and had to go pick up a vehicle from being serviced for vacation. And that's going to open us up with my shout out. Tonight it's going to be a shout out to Mason Rhodes. Rhodes Motor Company out on the east side of town on 412 over there by Jackson State. Right there on College Drive. He's the blue building. It's right there on the corner of College Drive and 412. Super nice guy and a phenomenal mechanic. Stayed over tonight to help get me taken care of. So, shout out to you, Mason. We certainly appreciate you, brother. You outstanding work. If you need any work, mechanic work, he's the man to see. Alrighty, let's jump into this here a little bit. We've got quite a bit to cover, and we're going to try to keep it. We're going to do our best to keep it under an hour.
Maybe some wishful thinking there.
Yeah. I'm going to start with. We're going to go over the easy stuff first. We'll start with the city budget. The city of Lexington did pass their budget. And let me tell you how the vote went so you understand. There was discussion before a motion was ever brought up for the budget, and then I'm going to say Fred Ellis kind of spurred the discussion. He got talking about pay raises, and what he was looking at was trying to, they always got this problem with pay raises. What he was looking at doing, I think, was trying to give the 2% pay raise and not give any other additional pay raises. For the 2% would have caught the general employees up from last year, and then not give them pay raise for this year. That's what he said. Tim Rhodes, no motion been made, so Tim Rhodes jumped in and he said, "I'm going to make a motion that we accept the mayor's first budget," which was back in May when the mayor presented that budget. That budget had no spending in it whatsoever. It was a balanced budget. There was no tax revenue needed. There was no additional spending. That was it. Tim made that motion. Gordon Wilbridge seconded. Well, and I guess this was kind of a throwback to what Gordon did the other day. Roger Lofton came in and made an amendment to Tim's motion. And his amendment was, we accept the budget as it sits right now today, which was the latest budget, which includes roughly around about $550,000 additional spending, given a 2% raise from general employees to catch them up, and then everybody gets a 2.5% raise coming into this year. In addition to that, the numbers kind of got chunked around. What was initially discussed in the first budget meeting and what was discussed in this one here didn't happen as the alderman had presented it, but from what I gathered in this meeting, $130,000 of money that's being used for the raises and other stuff that they're buying is coming out of paving. Now, let me get you to understand this here. That's $130,000 money they're taking out of paving the streets around here. Generally, that's roughly a mile. The city doesn't have super long streets and roads. There are some in the city, but most of them, a mile goes a long way in the city.
Yeah.
So they roughly are pulling out about a mile worth of paving. And we all know how bad the city streets are. Anyway, moving on, because we're going to come back and address all this stuff. Moving on, Roger made the motion, and I believe it was Sandra that made the second, to amend Tim's motion. When it went around, I don't remember how the order was exactly. I'd have to go back and look at the video. But when it got to Fred Ellis, he passed. So by passing, he didn't have to cast a vote at that spot. Everybody else voted, and the vote was 3-3. Gordon, Jim, and Jimmy White voted against doing that. And Sandra, Roger, and Gabe Williams voted for accepting the newest budget. And when it came back around at the end of the vote, Fred was asked again, and Fred said yes. So he helped pass that budget. So he helped make that change to the amendment. So in other words, what happened was what Tim said was gone at that point. That his motion had been amended by what Roger said, and then they had to go back and around and vote on Roger's amended, or on his amended
Tim's
motion.
amended
Right,
motion.
Tim's amended motion.
Yeah.
So that's how they got the budget passed. So that's what really has happened with the city budget. What Tim Rhodes' recommendation was to accept what the mayor put out back in May, which had no rate increases, no pay increases, none of that stuff, no tax increases, nothing. And it was going to be a balanced budget. And eventually what got passed was about $550,000 in spending. $113,000 goes to the 2% to catch the general fund employees up, and then another $177,000 for the 2.5% increase for this coming up fiscal year. So I want you to calculate that there. That's right at $290,000. Now, I don't know, I can't find it anywhere, but I don't know the value of a penny. And again, I'll explain to you the value of a penny when they're looking at property taxes. I was told it was somewhere around $26,000. I'm just going to say $27,000. 1 penny equals $27,000. Okay, what this means is next year, when the budget cycle comes around, they just added $290,000 of recurring expense. They have to pay for it. It's being paid right now out of their rainy day fund and payment. So that money now is, and that's going to be paid every single year. So the only way, you can't keep spending out of your savings because eventually you deplete your savings. And then our bond ratings and all that stuff goes down. That's one of the things they've been talking about. So bottom line is, I expect next year, because it will not be an election year next year, that they're going to raise property taxes a minimum of 11 cents. And I'm going to tell you the reason being. 1 cent is $27,000. Well, if you take 10 cents, that's $270,000. That's 10 times 27,000 is $270,000. And then that's not going to be enough to pay for that salary increase. So you get another penny in there, you're going to have $297,000 on 11 cent property tax increase. And all that is going to do for you is pay for the raises that's been given.
That's before you take into account the benefits.
Right. Well, no, I think the benefits were included in there when they were talking about it.
All right, I may be
Yeah,
wrong.
I think that's what they said back in May.
All right.
But
Well, it makes me feel a little bit better, but not much.
not much, but it does make you feel better. But so understand is, look, you're going to be seeing an 11 cent property tax increase, and what we have seen this year is they didn't want to do a property tax increase this year because guess what? It's election time. They don't want to do a property tax increase, and they figured that you forgot all about last year's property tax increase and the property tax increase before that. They figured you forgot all about it, so that's how politicians operate. Is they wait. They'll hit you up one year, and then they think, oh, well, they'll forget about it by next year, and they'll still vote me back in. And that's how we keep getting the same people over and over, and keep getting all this rate increases and salary increases. So
The other thing I want to mention too is when they first started talking about that extra $500,000, or I guess originally it was like 600 and something.
647?
Yeah, and Gordon had done a job of kind of negotiating, I guess somewhat, and trying to come to some type of agreement with them. Got them down to around 500. When he did that though, he looked at possibly other locations he could pull some funds from, and then we found out last night that it sounds like most of those places we couldn't actually remove the funds from for those purposes. They're,
Right.
they're limited.
liquor tax was the big one.
Yeah. And so, with that being said, once again, it sounds like the vast majority of this funding is going to come from the rainy day fund and not something else. And so,
Right. That's again, we're paying more taxes and we're not seeing an increase in service.
right.
That's kind of where we are, and that's kind of what's happening with it. Now, I want to, before we jump in, move over to the county, I want to come back on a couple things too in the city here. I mean, check, make sure we ain't got nobody jumping up here wanting to ask questions or anything. There we go. Okay. You hear me say a lot. Pay attention. And it goes into a lot more than just watching a video, but you really gotta pay attention. You gotta see how people operate and understand it. I'll give you a prime example of paying attention. At that meeting Monday, you could tell it was an election year because pretty much every candidate was in the audience. And you don't see that until it's election time. That's just how it works. Most people don't show up until it is election time. They just don't go to the meetings. They don't attend them. And going to the meetings makes a big difference because you get to see things that you won't see when you're on the video. You get to hear things. There's things that get lost in translation over the videos. Donna Ross had mentioned that to me one time, that she saw something completely different by being at the meeting. So, yeah, I mean, and I'm sure you've seen the same thing. Yeah, you can read people differently when you're seeing them face to face or live as opposed to being inside of the video.
You get to see the side eyes and the, kind of the grins and stuff where you see where somebody's kind of expecting someone to vote, maybe vote a certain way and want to make sure that they kind of see that.
Yeah. It happens. I mean, really.
Yeah, it does.
And going back to paying attention is, you watch Fred Ellis. What he did, I remember when he brought up the term limits. He really didn't have anything about wanting term limits because he wasn't looking to put term limits. He wanted to start from. He didn't want to pick up the existing. He just wanted to start moving forward. It's one of these things that I say, here, look, I'm over here for term limits. Hey, look, I'm over here and I want to do something about nepotism. But when he gets in there, hey, look, I want to do something about these pay raises. But that's what he presents to you, and that's what he's going to sell. Well, I tried to fix it. I tried to do this. But at the end of the day, if you go and look at their vote, they may have brought the topic up to bring attention to themselves, but their vote goes completely opposite of what they're actually saying. That's how they operate. I mean, that's paying attention to see and watch those things, how it happens. It helps you when you're making a decision with voting. And like I said, I will say this here, Candy. She has been going to meetings since last year, and she goes to city and county meetings. She attends both. I think back, you kind of started with the planning commission meetings, and then you kind of jumped into city meetings back in the fall sometime, and started getting involved and paying attention more. I know Donna. She's been watching the videos, and she had picked up, and she's been going to the meetings the last few months. Just so she can see it more. Putting her eyes on it, it makes a difference. So yeah, that's one of the things where you're paying attention to, so that you really can tell how people are voting, what people are doing. They're telling you, yeah, I was the one who made a stand for something, but yet if you look what they actually did, they did nothing. Nepotism is the policy we have is a joke at best. We never got term limits, and heck, that's because the term limit wasn't going to do anything with the existing board, or at least until it was going to start from this election forward. Actually, it would have had to go. It would have been the next election, because it had to go through
review by the state.
Yeah, I'm almost sure that had to be put on the ballot for this year too.
Right, but they had to get approval for it on the ballot, which required additional time.
Right, so it had been a couple of years before that ever even kicked in. And they're still doing the same things, same people eligible to serve.
Right.
And the way it was really set up is you could run 3 terms for mayor, and then your terms are up, then you can go run for alderman. Well, then you got if you wouldn't, you have to sit out because you could go back and run for mayor after that. There,
yeah.
So really, there was no limits.
Right.
You had limits on the position, but you could still be on the board.
Yeah, and you could fly back and forth between
Yeah,
them once you got over your limit or got to your limit, I guess, for that
Go to
position.
the next one, and that way, that's your sit out period for that position.
Right.
Yeah, the way it was presented was a joke. But anyway, I want to go back to something that happened in a meeting when they raised the utility rates. I've been spending some time the last couple of days. There's two more things I want to hit on in the city here before we jump to the county. I've been spending some time going back over the audits. When they passed the rates, Gordon Wilbridge got up and made a comment about he had talked to Michael Harper, and there was supposed to be a cost of living increase every year that would increase the utility rates.
Yeah.
Well, now, I haven't gone through the whole utility department itself. I just took a line because I figured one line here, next year, the next year, the same line. And what I looked at was the residential water line. That's pretty much what I looked at, and how much it costs a residential person inside the city limits. Well, Gordon was told that did happen, even though he said that Michael Harper had told him that it didn't happen. And Gordon's, and I think Cody came back and said, well, yeah, they've been getting those raises. Well, I'll tell you what, the audit don't lie. We have an independent auditor who is not associated with city politics in any way, shape, form, or fashion that does this audit. I'm going to read you the fees starting from 2020. In 2020, the average customer was paying $22. This is somebody who lives inside the city limits. This was based on 2,000 gallons of usage. Their bill was $22.32. Okay, in 2021, their bill was $22.65. It went up 33 cents per month. In 2022, their bill was $22.93, which that is a 28-cent increase. Okay, so in those 3 years, 2020, 2021, and 2022, they had a 33-cent increase and a 28-cent increase from there. Well, that wasn't cost of living. That didn't meet cost of living. So in other words, what Gordon Wilbridge said that night and the information that Michael Harper gave him was true and correct. Now, I want you to know, those 3 years right there, 2020, 2021, and 2022, Michael Harper was the general manager of Lexington Utilities. So, what he told Gordon was factual information. And what Cody told the board, whoever else was listening, including me, was not true. Now let's jump to 2023. This is the first year under Justin Roach. The bill went from $22.93 to $24.18. That is a 5.45% increase. So, under his first year, utility rates jumped up, but they didn't under Michael Harper. In 2024, the utility rates went from $24.18 to $28.51. That is a 17.9% increase. And now we know, I don't know how much the increase is going to be. And we'll find out for sure. We could go back and look at the sheets.
On average, I think for average household usage across the three utilities was around $18, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So I expect probably another 15% to 18%. I think it was put out in that meeting. But bottom line is, I wanted to give you some information that we got one person over here saying, we got an alderman saying this here with the prior department head, and then we got a city reporter over here saying something different. Well, come to find out, Gordon Wilbridge and Michael Harper told the truth, because the audit does not lie. Now, something else that I have touched base on, and we're going to go ahead and start bringing some of this out, because I'm still researching this. But I'm finding some things that are throwing me up some red flags. You know what? I need to do some more research on this with the retirement accounts.
All right.
But I saw something. I'm going to go ahead and touch base on something else too while we're here, because this will actually tie back into what I'm looking for in these retirement accounts. I got a call last night, and I'm hearing it's instead of 12 million, 22 million. So I need to get more information. That's a lot of money. And something I found in the audit today, I'll show it to you. It's the pension. When that transfer happened, we were negative net 542 in that pension. After that change, we went up negative 2.5 million. So we gained 2 million negative
Wow.
during the year that transfer happened. So anyway, I know I'm kind of getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but let me tell you a little bit about something here. We heard about the net negative, and the alderman asked, "You guys told us we were doing good, and we were doing fine in money, and we could afford to give raises." Well, and the one thing that the state was coming back saying is, you guys have a net negative in your it's OPED, it's other it's benefits. We're going to call it that. Other personal benefits is what it really boils down to. I think it's other personal employee benefits. So understand this here. I'm going to pop out here for a second. I want to give you some. Again, this all comes from the audit, and it plays a part when you're trying to understand things. Let's see here. We know in 2024 that the net OPED, according to the state, and according to this audit, we were 1.757932 negative. So the aldermen were told that they were doing fine, but they were negative. Okay, well, Tim Rhodes brought that up and could never get an answer. They kind of tiptoed around it and danced around it, blah, 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 blah. Now that was for the utility departments. Now I'm looking at this thing here as the government fund balance, but I'm going to come back in here because we've been given raises across the board in these things here. This balance sheet here actually deals with utilities and general fund. It does not include LES, just so we know. For 2023, we were negative 1.851. For 2022, we were negative 1.749. For 2021, we were negative 1.588. And for 2020, we were negative 1.199. So every year that they've been given raises and that these aldermen are asking questions, it's and they're being told that the money's good. Ain't true. They have been lied to. And these other personal benefits that you're dealing with, that number is going to increase the more you give raises because the benefits are going to go up.
That's right.
I mean, it's.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, their retirement pay is based on their last 3 years of salary, is it not? So,
I think that sounds right.
yeah. So that's as you continue to give these increases, of course, their pay out increases.
Well, now that's not the pension.
Yeah, that's under the.
This was oh no, it's a whole different ballgame when we get into pensions. Let me go back in here again to this, and this is where I was looking at with the retirement accounts. I wanted to get some more information. The pensions, we are negative 2.681 for this year.
Yeah.
Last year, negative 2.472. 22, we were negative 542. So at the end of 2022, June 30th, 2022, we were only negative $542,000 in our pension.
Yeah.
And then the next year, we're negative 2.472. That's about a 1.95 million difference. That's pretty substantial.
Yes.
How on earth did it jump up like that? I mean, I can see where it goes from 472 to 681, but from going from $500,000 to $2.5 million
In a year.
a year,
Yeah.
something don't add up there.
Agreed.
That's what we're digging into, and we're going to find out about it. But what we're trying to do is at least get you updated on some of this stuff here, so you can kind of get a gauge on what's going on with that there. We're going to take in we're going to try to take in get back to this, I think we're going to be done with the city for tonight. The next couple of weeks are going to be pretty busy. We're going to work on this with the retirement accounts and see if we can't get something going on with that there as well. Just to just to kind of get it out there. There's some stuff going on there that we're not really sure what's going on here. We're having to do quite a bit of research on it, but like I said, that jump in that 1 year from $500,000 to $2.5 million, that's when that money was transferred. And the board has no knowledge of it. I don't know if all the board, I don't know if all the board knows everything here. But, so anyway, just a quick recap. The city has passed the new budget 4-3. Roger Lofton voted for it, Sandra Wood voted for it, Gabe Williams voted for it, and Fred Ellis was the deciding vote since he passed and waited to the end. Like I said, I think $130,000 are going to be pulling out of pavement, so that's a little bit less road repair we're going to see around here, which isn't the best thing. And we know we're looking at $290,000 in recurring expenses that we're going to have to start paying for, probably starting next year. So that's
Covers annual.
yeah. And I still haven't heard a whole hell of a lot. Oh, there is one thing I do want to pop back on you. Last year we had a 17-cent property tax increase. Now, right off the get-go, 12% of that money was going to pay raises, and what was agreed upon, and that was discussed in the meetings. Well, and going back, and I think last year it was 26,000. We'll say 27,000. So that means roughly 12% would be 270 and 54 would be around about 3 1/4 is what the pay raises were. Okay, now we're looking at that there last year. That's where 12% of that money went. Now we can't, because I'm sure this is going to be an argument. Well, you know what? The property tax increase from last year is covering the additional 2% of the additional money for this 3% raise that they called up with. Well, then that means all 17% of your money and your property tax money is going straight into raises. We are getting no additional services. We're not getting any repair of crumbling infrastructure for that there. We're having to borrow money for that. And eventually when that money starts paying back in, you're going to have to pay for that there. And the only place they're going to get it from, some of this stuff here is going to come from property taxes. It is what it is. They're continuing to spend us deep in debt. And then in our next podcast, on our next regular scheduled podcast, we'll bring up and I'll show you some of the stuff with bonds within each department within the general fund and the utilities, so you can actually take a look at it. And there was one other thing too that I wanted to bring up from the city meeting, and this will be in a promise. Fred Ellis made a comment about LES getting a 20% pay raise. Let me get you into this here so you understand, because he threw Jeff Graves' name out there. Because when Brad Jones with LES stepped up and said, we don't have anybody getting a 20% raise, and he is correct. What happened was, when all these salary survey stuff was going on, the salary survey was being done. This was something that Fred Ellis pushed, and had the company that did the salary survey, and did a comparison of us to Nashville and Memphis and Dixon and Jackson, which we weren't nowhere near. We don't compare those cities. It did have some smaller markets like us, but you can't use those big cities because we just don't compare. And ain't nobody here. I don't believe that would ever have a police officer that would leave here to go to work at Jackson and make $4,000 or $5,000 more per year. Because there's some pretty bad spots over there in Jackson. And where do you think a new person's going? Those pretty bad spots. And also, I'm pretty sure Jackson's probably got the same thing we have. You can't drive outside the county, so they're not going to be taking a car home from Jackson. So all that stuff comes into play. So don't kind of listen to it when you hear these things here. We're afraid of losing people, because I think that's just a bunch of hogwash. But what Fred was saying was there was a 20% increase Well, I got up and asked him, and he never could give me a name. He just said you'd have to look at the salaries, you know. And you brought it up. Well, and he's probably right. When Jeff Graves had a salary survey done for LES, I'm going to tell you right now, in comparison markets, the same argument that Fred and Roger and Gabe and Sandra have been making is, well, these people in other places here are making this here. Well, Jeff Graves did the exact same thing for LES and said, hey, you know what? We're looking at comparable markets, and these are what these people are making. So he gave raises the same as what the board did. But for some odd reason, it seems to be a problem that Jeff Graves and LES gave raises. It pretty much was consistent with everybody else. And I'll tell you the reason being. It's pretty damn simple. LES, they are not, they have a separate audit than the rest of us. TVA plays a major part in how they run their figures, how everything is handled with them. And because TVA kind of keeps the city at bay, well, they can't go in there and just do what they do with everything else and overspend it. So LES kind of is its own entity and it's operating great, you know. And kudos to Jeff Graves. I mean, that man, he ran a tight ship with LES. He really built our system out. But on top of that there, before he left, he gave us LexNet. The man put his heart and soul into that and bring it here. So, you know, our kids in our rural communities here, they're getting high-speed internet. And they're rolling this thing out and it's working. You know, and kudos to Brad Jones. He has stepped into role, and Brad's doing a hell of a job. And, you know, and kudos to everybody at LES. You guys are outstanding, and you're doing a great job on getting stuff taken care of. And this growth into LexNet, all of it is a positive. So, you know, throwing that out there that they got a salary survey increase when the exact same thing happened over here in the city, because that's what that salary survey was. We saw massive jumps in salaries last year because we put that out there for you. We saw massive jumps in those salaries too. So, you know, if we're going to come up here and point fingers at somebody, let's at least be honest about it and show everything that's included with that there. That kind of annoying.
I can see that.
And that's the reason I jumped up and said something, because I don't think Jeff Graves should be. He don't need to be thrown under the bus, because he did a great thing, in my personal opinion. Anyway, that's it with the city. We're closing the chapter on that there. Let's get into the county. I am going to turn this here over to Blake right now. I stayed for the first hour and 55 minutes, which was nothing but discussion on the residential home inspection program. And I know that's the hot topic everybody wants to hear. So I'm going to let Blake, because he stayed and watched the rest of it, let him get the budget side of it taken out and get you explaining on that.
Well, so on the budget side, I mean, for the most part, everything was passed. I mean, we just kind of went through and approved it. But one of the funnier things that happened, if you went back and kind of watched some videos, we got to the end of the meeting and one of the commissioners asked, I didn't think we voted on the whole budget. We just voted on a few line items in it. Do we need to vote on that? And then somebody else chimed in and was like, what? I thought we already voted on the whole budget. And so it was like, once again, it just kind of blows your mind a little bit. It's like, well, if you don't know what you voted on, how did you vote on it? You know, and then regardless. So we approved everything. 3% raise for all departments.
For all departments? Because I think in the initial reading, they weren't going to give raises to a few departments because they were taking days off.
What I heard in the meeting was a 3% raise for all departments.
Okay.
And so I don't know if they've actually, like I said, changed that from the initial reading,
And
or if they just misspoke and they don't really remember what they voted on the first time. You know, there's a lot of possibilities for why we have what we have. They approved the nonprofit organization donations, which they discussed last time. I'm trying to think. There was a few errors that they corrected. What she discussed or talked about, it didn't seem like anything was just a massive change. That was kind of just Board of Education. They voted to approve that budget. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. but the mayor may not have voted. Jeff James was the only one that actually voted no on the entire general fund. And so, like I said, everybody
Well,
else.
and that could be because, if I remember correctly, it was Jeff and one other commissioner that voted against the budget last time. And that's where, I don't know, that there, and I'll say something else too, I'm gonna come back in on Jeff James about. Back in August of last year, the county was actually doing monthly meetings. And they went back to quarterly meetings. And that motion was made by Jeff James. And I'll give you some insight on why that was. And this could be because what happened with the nonprofits in there too. Jeff James made that motion, got it passed to go back to quarterly meetings, and there's a reason he did that. It wasn't so he didn't have to come up to meetings more often, once a month. What it was about was a prior commission had passed a resolution that stated quarterly, at every quarterly meeting, any nonprofit receiving $10,000 or more had to come in front of the board to provide them information on what the money's being spent for. In other words, they're trying to provide some transparency.
Well, oversight.
Right, some oversight, yeah. Where's the money going so we know whether to give you money next budget cycle. Because if you tell us you're having pizza parties with all the tax dollars we're giving you, yeah. So Jeff wanted that to happen. When he made that motion, he made sure that he made it clear to the mayor, who is the chairman of the board, that he wanted these people to come back up in front of the commission to give an update. And he's still waiting. We've had probably around about 4 or 5 regular scheduled meetings since then, and none of the nonprofits have gone back in front of the board to discuss it. So he may be upset for the fact that he brought back up a resolution the commission passed previously, and he got the commission to pass that they wanted people to come up and start presenting information. So he may have voted in response to say, you know what, I don't want to give these commissioners, these nonprofits money, because they're not coming up here telling us what they're doing with it. So, and I'm not speaking for Jeff. I mean, he may not be the case at all. He might just
Not agree with the budget.
Yeah, he may not agree with the budget. But yeah, I think he was a no vote last time it came around.
The other thing that came up was a few road projects, Lone Elm Road being one of them.
Yeah.
So when that got brought around, Steve Vineyard actually wasn't president anymore. I guess he had to go somewhere. I seen him there at the very
Yeah, he was
beginning.
there in the beginning.
But so anyways, he wasn't around. So Robbie kind of went into it a little bit and explained that in 2024 there was a letter sent to the neighbor property owner. Lone Elm Road is over there on the east side of town, kind of right before. Pinot School, over there by Wall Trucking and them.
Yeah.
And so, Nick and them went out there and have expanded their lot. Like I said, their business is growing significantly, it looks like. Anyways, when they did, they dug in pretty close to the road. I mean, almost on top of it, I would say. Anyways, when they did that, it sounded like they may have hit a spring or the water leaking somewhere. And so anyways, now the issue has been trying to stabilize the road.
The road bed is damaged at this point.
Right. And so I know that Nick's hauled in a tremendous amount of rock.
Yeah.
I mean, there's rock for days over there.
Yeah, and I don't know, because when I looked at it, when I saw that rock, did he really gain any parking? Because that's a lot of rock sitting up there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like I said, it's a ton. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
back
yeah.
for a long ways.
And that rock ain't cheap.
No, it's not. So it says Steve was working with them to get it right, but he said they might need an engineer or state engineer to keep thinking to come up with some type of plan to prevent that.
Well, see, now I'm confused, because what I was told was the road, that the $218,000 was going to be for paving Lone Elm Road.
Right. Well, and so
So that there's still a problem with it structurally.
right. So that was one of the next thing. They said they're going to let the property owner fix the issues up front. We're going to take care of the rest. And then it went on to say, well, this may be a civil issue. And so I don't know if he's in that they're going to get into a legal dispute with Nick and them, or if like I said, we're going to let Nick just take care of it and maybe take some guidance from an engineer on how to stabilize the road. I mean, he has the equipment. But it sounded like we were going to take care of the rest of paving it, which, if I'm not mistaken, it was like $200,000.
$218 is what was budgeted.
Yeah. So, I mean, pretty expensive. I'm not sure if I can remember. I don't even recall if I ever drove down the road before that. Like, how bad a shape was it in? Was it necessary?
Like any other Henderson County road, probably is.
Yeah, probably. But it chip and tar road, like I said, didn't look like it was in just terrible shape. Of course, a bunch of roads in the county are chip and tar. And at the end of the day, it looks like it's narrowed some. Like I said, I mean, since they put down all that rock up to it, it may just be like a visual perception thing where it hasn't really narrowed. It looks like it.
Yeah, and when I started trying to find previous pictures from before all this happened, I didn't have any success. And even then, I mean, how do you gauge a picture for, unless you got some kind of reference point to really see what something is.
Something to scale it.
But in the last pictures I've seen on maps, I'd gone in after that there, and there was, I don't know, I mean, it's almost, when they remove old asphalt and grind it up, that's not real fine, but I mean, it's still smaller pieces, because it was black, what they had on top of it. And I remember there was a dip there, and when I talked to Steve Vineyard about it, and that's what he told me, is that dip there is because there's whatever that spring is. Which, I mean, that spring would have been there. If the spring is there, it's either there, it's not like somebody installs a spring.
Right.
I mean, it's there, or it's not there. I guess whatever the pack was for the bed, when
We've already been out the
right,
side.
and what you're looking at is that the lot is Nick's lot is here, and Lone Elm is elevated.
Yeah, probably 10 to 30 feet.
Yeah.
Back.
I think probably around about 30 on the backside. Sounds about right. So yeah, if you're moving that dirt and you compress traffic on that there and add weight going across that there, I can see where the clay and whatever can, over time stuff sets in.
Right.
I mean, it compacts and grass grows on it and seeds it in and beds it. Yeah, and I can see where all that happened. And like I said, I got some information from this and I started with it and made some phone calls and talked to Steve. And I think he told me, was it mentioned in there, a cease and desist letter sent out?
Yeah, it said in 2024 they sent a letter to the neighboring property owners, and the letter is probably talking about cease and desist to them. But it doesn't sound like there was much that was actually stopped. Or I say that there may have been a pause in it, in that he just resumed once there was some type of clarification, or like I said, I don't know if Steve is considered a road engineer. If he went out there and gave him some direction on, hey, here's what we need to do, and then Nick went through with those. That very well may be the case. Like I said, we didn't really get a whole lot of information because once again Steve wasn't there, and so they pretty much passed it till next time. It sounds like, unless they're going to, like I said, deal with it as a civil issue, and then worry about maybe the budget funding on the back end for any type of payment.
Right. Well, as far as I know, that money there would have came out of our undesignated funds. I believe is where that money would have come from for that paving, and they would have put it back up under as a capital project. Was there any discussion of balancing the highway department's budget? Okay, 'cause last I heard they were $300,000 under or something like that, or $500,000, it's quite a bit of money.
I don't remember any discussion about that whatsoever.
Okay, I don't know what they ever did with that there.
Which they may have been a little tired and worn out from the discussion beforehand. And there was also 2 other roads that were just there.
The Greenway Road was up there.
Yep, and they passed it right off the bat and then went to the Lone Elm Road, and once again kind of had just a brief overview of what was going on. But like I said, without Steve there, they really didn't get into much discussion on it.
Okay, so Greenway passed. I know where Greenway Road is. That's it's over there, just south of Westover's school over there.
Mm-hmm.
It cuts off to the right there. I've never been down that road. Well, let me rephrase that. I've been down there probably about a quarter mile. I've got in front of my license plate music right down there on the left.
Right.
I don't know a whole lot about the road itself.
But the vast majority of the meeting was about this residential inspection program.
Yeah, so you feel pretty confident in everything you put out with the budget side of that there?
I mean, I think we covered just about all of it that was discussed.
So now we get to the big ticket item.
Yeah, so, I don't even know how to really begin on it. So, brought it back up, this is gonna be, I guess, a discussion. Like I said, I say that. At some point during the meeting, probably about 20 minutes into it, there was a commissioner that was having some issues. I think it's
Matt Manus.
Yeah, and so he was brought out. There was one other commissioner that wasn't present there as well.
I think there's more than one. Todd Beecham wasn't present from District 3.
Yeah.
And Blake Stanfield wasn't
That's right.
present from District 4.
I've read about Todd.
Yeah, I think everybody else was there.
That's right. And so they went into a discussion about it, and they said that they're going to continue to bring it up and have discussions about it, which, I'm kind of glad they at least weren't as hostile last night. Let's put it that way.
And I want to say something before we get digging into this thing here, because it really plays a part right at the top end. One thing that I have, since I've been paying attention to politics and going to meetings, and I've heard, and I've continued to hear this here from commissioners, prior commissioners, prior mayors, that when the county commission votes on something and it gets voted down, it doesn't pass, then it takes a no vote to bring it back up. So who's the no vote that has brought this back up? Because some of the conversations I've had since this has come back up, is some of the yes votes are now going no. I mean, it's lost a lot of steam. And I think that's probably because of the way it was handled initially. If there had been, I'm just going to say this here, if there had just been straight up honest, yeah, it didn't pass, instead of trying to get it, trying to manipulate their way to make it pass, that just didn't sit well.
Right. You lose trust and confidence in people. Yeah. And I think that's exactly what happened. And the other thing being, they're kind of all over the place with it. Well, it's going to help our insurance rates, or it may help our ISO rating. You go back in, and it's like, well, you talk to somebody that actually is an insurance agent. No, it's not really going to change anything.
No.
You talk to the fire. Well, it'll move us. It'll give us some points towards it. But we need like 100 points. It's going to give us 10 at most. And so, it's not actually going to get us to the next rating or not.
Right, and yeah, I mean, I talked to Lynn about it and talked with others about it. That's going to a 4. A lot of things got to happen.
Right.
And not granted,
Significant spending.
Significant spending.
Yes.
And for us to even get past 4, I mean, just to even get to 4, it's going to cost us a lot of money. I mean, number one is our water supply. And tax, Now, granted, we're building fire departments. Hey, we're going to absorb one with the emergency with the rescue.
Rescue, yes.
But even then, I mean, it's going to cost a lot of money to move up for very little gain.
Right.
I'm going to say this here: that is nothing more than a political ploy. It's here. This is what it's going to do for us. Okay, well, yeah, man, I saved $10 a year on my insurance. I told you would.
Yeah. Cost you extra $30 in property tax.
Yeah.
$50 in property tax, but you're better off.
That's right. I'm better off.
Yeah.
I think that's very misleading. And Jack Johnson did a really good job of getting up there and questioning that. Because, and heck, he's in the city, and he was talking about ISO too. And his insurance rates aren't doing much better. And I think he had a fire hydrant, 30 feet from his house?
Yeah, right in front of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, so, kudos to Jack for bringing that up. I mean, he kind of started, put out there to shut it down in some shape, form, or fashion.
Right. Well, and then I guess the next thing that come around though, so there's a lot of different points, but one of the ones that kind of got brought up towards the end, there's quite a few contractors, general contractors in the crowd, and they're all of them that were there that I remember were for it. We think it's great. Well, one of them.
And let me pause you for just 1 second. Okay, Jack Johnson has come up in here and comment, and thank you for commenting, Jack. We appreciate you chiming in to let us know what's going on. Sometimes when we hear something, we don't know, but The 911 and the trustee's office, these are the ones that's been given the days off.
Yeah.
They are not getting the 3% raise.
All right.
So it's not all departments.
Right, so that's
That's
what you were saying before, the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
grade.
it's what the first reading was, is what it
Right.
looks like what they passed. Again, thank you for chiming in, Jack, we certainly appreciate that.
So anyways, we're back to what the general contractors wanted it, and the gentleman in the crowd asked, well, you know, is there a way we can make this like optional, where if somebody wanted to opt into permits and having inspections done, could they? Well, then the general contractors chimed in and said, well, it's already there. You already have that option. You can pull permits from the state and they'll come out and inspect it if you want to, right? And so then they went further and say, and by the way, as a general contractor, we're required to, which I'm not 100% sure if they're actually required to, or if they do it as a liability limiting purpose, because it's like, hey,
Takes them off the,
Right.
takes them off the hit list.
right, well, no, that we have somebody that's certified that came in and inspected and said everything was good and up to code. And so if you come back within 6 months, or, you know what I'm saying, and you have some issues with your home, you say, I don't know what to tell you. I built it up to code. Like, at the end of the day, some of those problems are on you. You know, whether it's you just didn't maintain your home right or whatever. Once again, minimum standards for building codes, largely about protecting, for the most part, contractors and other individuals, than it is solely about protecting the home.
Well, see, and now, this is where I'm confused.
Right.
If it's already an option,
Right.
then why are we being forced to do it?
Yeah. Well, and it kind of brings the question to, if they're required to do it, if the general contractors are, it almost is to the point where it's like, well, then this is only really applying to the homeowners themselves, because the general contractor already has something regulated. And so,
And that would make sense. I mean, that may be part of the requirements of their
license.
obtaining and keeping their license.
Right.
You know, and here's my question too: is, you know, I brought up in public comments, you know, one of the houses we hear about is a house in Joy Lane.
Yeah.
Well, when you look at the pictures, that house got, I know, at minimum, an electrical inspection. Has to, because every new big construction in the state has to have that.
Right.
So if that house has got an electrical inspection, why are there outlets, why are there light switches that are not working in that house?
Right.
Why are there pictures of wires hanging out on top of ductworks under the house? How did that pass an electrical inspection?
The only thing I can say is and there are some inspectors that do their job well, and there are some inspectors that drive by. And at the end of the day, as long as you pay and pass go.
Well, my question is this here: since that house got inspected, apparently the contractor's off the hook for at least that part of the electrical because it passed along.
Right.
Who's on the hook for it?
Well-
Was the state going to reimburse the homeowner for that there?
No.
Or the homeowner just screwed all the way around, and plus they had to pay for a permit and inspection that did them no damn good?
So generally speaking, the contractor would still be liable. So generally speaking, there's a year warranty or whatever. So I said 6 months. I'm probably going to say 16 months earlier. So they would be required to come in and inspect it. The only thing that may extend that is if you can show that like gross negligence, fraud, you know what I'm saying, some type of obviously concealment. But it's hard, and like I said, but it comes back to the homeowner has to pursue that against the contractor in court. It's not that the state's going to come and go to bat for it. You know, and that's what I feel like is the frustrating part from my perspective, is that they try to pitch it to people as though we're gonna go out here and look after you. We're here for your health and public safety and everything else. And you know, if we find something wrong, we're gonna go out there and take care of it. That's not the case. You know, most of the time you're gonna have somebody that's there for a permit inspection for maybe 30 minutes at most, even if they're a really good inspector. And like I said, depending on where you're at, they may complete a whole inspection and mark everything they find, or you may be like where Jackson, or Madison County, where they'll go in the first time they find something that's wrong, they'll stop right there, flag you for that, and leave. And so if you had 7 or 8 other problems, right, they don't address them. Once you fix that one that they marked, they'll come back out. Well, as they're going through, they'll find the next one, they'll flag you for that, and leave. And so you get to pay this $50 inspection fee every time, instead of them going through and finding all of them and marking them at once. And so that's where it drags out time for construction, you're spending more money on construction, and are you really getting the benefit? I tell everybody, like, kind of what another gentleman said there. If you're going to spend, more than $200,000 on a home, whether it be new construction or a used home, say you're buying some, get an inspection if you don't know. If you don't have at least a general understanding of everything, please do. Like I said, it's an expensive asset. Sometimes with VA and FHA loans, stuff like that, there's a little bit more of an inspection process because of those loans. But a general loan from a bank, a lot of times there's not any type of in-depth inspection requirements. There's going to be an appraisal. We want to see what the value of it is. But there's not going to be somebody that comes out and really goes through everything. Generally speaking, you can probably find a licensed inspector around here for $500 to $1,000. In the scheme of what you're going to spend on a home, it's not even a meaningful percentage, right?
But here, if they're catching problems up front,
right?
But if they're not catching problems up front, what has this really done for you? I mean, what did the people gain from having to pay for these permits and these inspections? Again, like we talked about the house in Joy Lane. Let's look at the house in Pope subdivisions.
Right.
Permits were pulled on that there. Inspection process went through.
Yeah.
And yet we're still looking at foundations that are crumbling.
Right.
And using metal straps to hold them together. At what point in time frame, let's say that you had purchased that house, you had bought that house and had it built, and that happened. What is your recourse?
Oh, you'd have to pursue it against the contractor.
Right, so you have to go through, you've had to pay for a permit, you've had to pay for the inspections, and the inspections failed you because the inspector didn't do the job, and you have no recourse against them, and you've got money tied up in the contract here, and you're going to have to go back and sue somebody, and the state's not coming down and pulling their license. So, bottom line is these inspections and programs is a bunch of BS, because at the end of the day, the homeowner is still going to be buying a house that if it's messed up, you're still stuck with having to take and pay for all this money to at least take the legal route.
Right. Yeah, fight it. Yeah,
Right.
Exactly. And like I said, at the end of the day, I think it gives some people a false sense of security because they say that, I don't have to pay for a third-party inspection. Like I said, it's $500,000 a month. $500 or $1,000 fee for this inspection. I don't have to pay for that. I've got permits, it's inspected by a licensed inspector, blah, 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 and come find out that, it's subpar, it has massive issues. And yeah, you by and large have to go and hire an inspector. And it's expensive. It's not a cheap fee. You're going to have experts come in and testify for the most part. Like I said, it's not something where you can go up here to a small claims court or something and, you know what I'm saying, essentially you can present it yourself and within 40 minutes or something you have a judgment in your favor. That's not how it's going to be.
It's just, to me, it's even at the end of the day, if you win the settlement, if you win, you still flip the coin to see if you get that, but if you do win, the contractor can go out and do the exact same thing all over again. It doesn't look like this here really does a whole hell of a lot to protect people, because we have seen inspections done and they still had issues on the very things that was being inspected. That's a problem there.
Right. Well, and then just another problem with it is I guess this is where I struggle with it. They continue to bring this up and say that we're going to address the problems with Whiskey Ridge and whatever other name of that one is off Highway 200.
Twin Rivers.
But we're going to go out there, and we have to have building permits so that we can prevent these people. But none of them are out there living in a home. And so, how is your building inspection program going to go out there and do anything?
It's not.
Yeah, and that was, once again, people kind of asked that, and it was like, well, this is what the state told us we had to do before they come out and do anything. Supposedly, there's been a picture shared of, I guess, raw sewage running out of the pipe onto the ground, and the state told them that they couldn't do anything unless they had building permits. And then the state could come in and do that, which I've never seen anything like that with TDAC.
Well, I'll tell you what, and I'm calling BS on that as well.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you the reason being. I've actually contacted TDAC and have talked with TDAC. And I haven't seen the pictures. If somebody, whoever pays attention to this page here, has the pictures, stop by the shop, drop them off for me, shoot them to me in a message. My email is j_lavelle@yahoo.com. My number is 731-307-8408. Send them to me. I have already talked to TDEC, and TDEC is willing to go out.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to send them out there in a wild goose chase because TDEC, I'm going to tell you right now, has been Johnny on the spot. That is one department we got in the state that I praise highly. Anytime I've had an issue or citizens have had an issue and contacted me about it, I've reached out to them and they have been, absolutely amazing.
Right.
They're not afraid to go out there and they do their job, and they're not going to be, their integrity is intact. They're not for sale. They're not playing games. They're not showing favoritisms. They're not being bullied. They're doing their job, and I can't speak highly enough of TDEC.
Right.
They're willing to go,
Yeah.
but I don't know where to even send them.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
I hear about it, but I ain't seen nothing. Somebody show me something, and I'll be more than happy to pick up the phone, and I'll initiate it, and I'll file the complaint so my name is on it. It takes everybody out of the equation. Nobody has to worry about backlash. I'll deal with it.
My thing with it is, so that's why I brought up that one time when I was kicked out, was at the end of the day, it comes down to subdivision regulations. I don't understand why we're not enforcing subdivision regulations on them. And that's what I brought up at the planning commission. I asked them not even listen to me, I said, listen to the regional planner here. You know, when you extend a roadway or utilities, right, you fall under subdivision regulations. Oh yeah, that's the number one thing. You know, that's exactly what we said. That's the telltale sign. So around here, if you do more than 5 acres and you have road frontage, right, and you have utilities existing there, by and large, it's hard to regulate under our current regulations. But when you extend the roadway, you fall into subdivision regulations 100%, and you have to go before the planning commission, which for the longest time was Southwest Tennessee Development District because we were in a regional planning. And so that was actually one of the things, so I printed out, there's a land use regulations white paper put out by the Tennessee Economic and Community Development, which is the ones that promulgated Southwest Tennessee Development District and all the other regional planning commissions. And so anyways, this is a paper they put out because pretty much Blue Oval. Blue Oval's coming over into an area that is rather rural, undeveloped, and they're seeing the writing on the wall. Oh my gosh, we're going to have a bunch of subdivisions that pop up in places that have no regulations whatsoever, and you can foster where people can, large developers come in and maybe do some things kind of subpar because they realize, well, these people have any regulations whatsoever.
Right.
Let's go ahead and see what we
They
can
don't
do.
have to circumvent the rules because there is no rules.
Right. All right. That's by and large it. And so if there's a desire for an existing parcel to be subdivided into separate parcels and are different zoning classifications, form of subdivision regulations, it says building codes are the next tier of regulation to safeguard public health and safety. It's kind of funny too. That was one of the other things that started out there by Robbie. He was saying that I don't want you to get confused that there's a difference between building codes or the building inspection program and health and safety. Well, right here, the building codes are the next tier of regulation to safeguard public health, safety, and general welfare. Then it goes on, next sentence, in Tennessee, there are statewide minimum building standards in place in the event that a jurisdiction does not adopt and enforce their own local building code. Robbie,
So we have state laws,
we have state laws.
and we're not actually doing anything to apply these state laws.
That's right.
We just want to create new laws and new rules on the people. It's wrong.
Well, I just call it arbitrary enforcement. At the end of the day, we're going to put these in, and then I guess we're going to enforce it against some people and not others. I guess the other, I'll get back to this in just a second. One of the other things they brought up was that they've stopped 2 or 3 other developments.
Right.
How? How did you stop them? Under what regulation did you stop them?
Under the subdivision regulations that they created. Okay, now this, to my knowledge, this just got passed, I think, October of last year.
Well, this was put out in 23 December, and it shows Henderson County as having active regional planning commission with Southwest Tennessee Development District, and we've got subdivision regulations.
Okay.
Because once again, a lot of this was mandated when they come out and did Southwest Tennessee Development District. They did regional planning. One of the things that they asked was that there be a road map or plan put out for the general area. And so once you did that, most of them were required then to do subdivision regulations. One of the only ones I think that hasn't done subdivision regulations is Decatur County. I say that I know of. And so that can make it difficult, once again, with trying to regulate those things over there.
Well, and I'm going to say something here. I know there's a big push out here over Whiskey Ridge and Twin Rivers.
Right.
Fairfield Estates up there where I'm at, and I love this here because I love how they brought up chicken farms. So, yeah, I'm going to tell you right now. I guess I need to get a stick out and beat that dead horse some more. It's over and done with. Okay, chicken barns are over and done with. And say what you want to say. There's proof out there of everything that happened, but it's over and done with. But I'm going to tell you, up in District 1, we got 16 chicken barns. We got Peregrine Estates. It's over by a golf course. It was first here long before Twin Rivers and Whiskey Ridge. I mean, I don't want building. I'm up in that district. I don't want any kind of building inspection. I don't want to have to deal with that there. Number one is I don't want to have to. I don't even know because I can't get any information. And I keep hearing, well, you can get a permit without being a contractor. I haven't seen anything in writing. You can tell me whatever you want to say at this point in time frame. I don't trust what's said because every time I turn around, we get told something that's not true. It goes down into it. But you're talking about safety and health. There's something that hit on me the other night. Was Jonathan Williams, and he's been very vocal and he's done a lot of research. Kudos to you, Jonathan. He got talking about the permits and said, well, what happens if I don't get a permit? And the mayor's like, well, we're not coming after you. We're not going to do anything if you don't get it. Okay, well, hold on a damn second now. Because this is where my confusion kicked in. You're sitting here and you're telling me we got to have this. It's going to increase the property values. It's going to make sure that our people are safe and everything. But you're not going to enforce it if somebody don't get one.
Right.
Then what the hell's the point?
Right.
What's the difference in what we've already got?
I have no idea.
Nothing has changed.
Well, that's why I got at earlier with the arbitrary. It seems like, well, we'll selectively enforce it on, obviously we stopped 3 developments, but we're not going to stop these other 2 over here.
But it's just,
yeah, like I said, I guess it almost brings the question though too, is somebody are you receiving some type of financial incentive or somebody because I just don't understand why you're going to stop some and not the other. And at the same time too, these other developments, why aren't we helping them go through? At the end of the day, if we have a need for housing here, why aren't we assisting people develop land? I guess we're just going to stop.
Now I will say this here. Now they did have the TIF out there that they were trying to do to help develop land. Now I want to make sure that we point this throughout. The developer who was getting that TIF for those 72 houses out there on Timberlake Baldwin Road is the same one that built the house out there in Joy Lane and that is in such bad shape. So when we're getting into this here, we can get real deep into the damn weeds on this here, because we got some damn good contractors around here, and then we got some crap. That's just the bottom line. It is what it is, and we don't need to. If we're going to do something to increase this to build here, But how are you going to consider anything at $250,000 or more affordable housing? Right. That's one of the things. I mean, we're pricing in the same as Jackson or more. Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
It is.
That is because we don't have the same industry. We don't have the same amenities. We're not Jackson.
Right.
Ain't never gonna be Jackson. We just don't have the room for the growth for that.
Right.
Yeah, I get it. We want to attract. I had somebody call me after the meeting, and they made a comment like, "Boy, it looks like the mayor don't like poor people." I said, "Well," I said, "it kind of seems that way because I keep hearing they want to draw all this higher dollar people into Henderson County, but what do we have to offer to draw those people in?"
Yeah.
And bottom line is, I'm not even worried about. I don't care about drawing anybody in. I care about people who's here right this moment.
Right.
And we got to take care of our own before we try to take and worry about building something else.
Right.
And we're failing our own people right this moment. Right. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
But going back to that there, at the end of that conversation, that little snippet between Jonathan and the mayor, I did hear the mayor said, but don't worry, we may not get a permit, but we're gonna go out there and we're gonna get measurements. And what he means by that there is, whatever you done to your house, we're gonna see how much you added to it, and we're gonna reappraise and we're gonna get our property tax money.
That's right.
Because I think at the end of the day, this all is about money.
Yeah. Well, and then they just speaking of that same thing about doing additions to the home. They went back and forth on whether or not you had to have a permit for it. Oh, you wouldn't have to have one for your porch, or if you wanted to put a lean-to on the back of your home, you wouldn't have to. At the first time that they said that, well, then the next time they bring it up and they were like, oh no, well if it's attached to your home, then we'd have to have an inspection. It's 30 square feet.
A deck, a porch, or anything.
Well, I mean, 30 square feet's nothing. Remember we talked about that before.
I brought that up to somebody. Joe Blow goes out and buys himself a double wide. Now guess what? Double wide, you ain't got to go through permit inspection. And you know what? There might be people out there who start buying double wides just so they don't have to go through the permit inspection.
Right.
Okay. He goes by double wide, he has it set up, and whoever sets it up, let's just say Bray Mobile Homes, brings that thing out, sets them up, sets them out some concrete steps going up to his front door, some concrete steps going up to his back door. But Joe's like, you know what, I need to get some better steps in my front. I'm going to build me a little stoop up here, 4 foot by 5 foot, which means he's going to build that thing 5 foot deep, 4 foot wide, because you got to have to swing your door. He's going to build a little stoop. That's 20 square feet. Well, guess what? Now his steps, okay, let's see, his steps are up there. He's got to have 5 treads. He's going to have them 3 foot wide, and the tread's going to be a foot deep. Well, you multiply that times 5, 3 times 5, you got 15 square feet. So to build that little stoop on his house, when he attaches it back to it, by banding up to it, he's got to have a permit. And he's going to probably spend, I don't remember how much it was. I think it was like $250 to start. I'd have to go back and look at the things.
Yeah, I don't remember what.
Yeah, from 0 to 5,000.
Yeah.
So he's going to spend probably more money on a permit than he's going to pay on material.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And that's what they said at the meeting.
Mhm.
They said that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. If it was attached to the home, then you'd have to have it inspected. And then the other thing being is that they kept going back to the habitable. Well, how are we going to define habitable? If a structure has a bathroom, is it now, so if you have a shop and you want to put a toilet in it, is it now considered a habitable structure? Because I mean, it's got a toilet in it, it's got running water. Is it not? Or what about if you put a shower in it? Does that, if you do the shower, does that make it versus just a half bath? Or the next thing being, I guess if we go into, is it bedrooms that qualifies? So like if you framed out maybe a storage area in your shop or something, and it, maybe it had another closet in it for your air compressor or something, like, right? So it's not real loud. Well, that maybe would be construed as a closet. Is this now a bedroom and a habitable structure?
You know what? I got a toilet, I got a sink, and I've actually got a tub that a baby dog live back there.
Oh, sounds.
In my house now,
I mean, it sounds like you're a habitable structure.
I mean, that's where, again, definition, and we haven't seen anything.
Right.
We have not seen anything in print handed out. We can't call our commissioners, look, you guys are voting on this here, but can you give me some information? No, I ain't got none.
Right.
I'm going to tell you.
Well, and I think that would have been the thing had they on the first time that brought it up and said, hey, we just want to discuss this, get some feedback, here's kind of what we're thinking about, and blah, 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 and did it that way. I think people may have been more receptive to it. But when they tried to ram it down their throat, and all they had really was a fee schedule, and if it's a habitable structure, boom, you're in, habitable structure more than 30 square feet. That, like I said, just made everyone irate, because like I said, there's nothing worse than having laws in the book that you can't reasonably look at, interpret, and understand, and then apply your actions to. When you come in and like I said, you're like, I don't know if this applies to me or not, that leaves people in a state of confusion. It opens up litigation that's not necessary, and it's pointless at the end of the day.
Well, see, to me, I think what really was going on in this whole thing, let's get them to say, yeah, we're good with it. We get the commission to pass it. And I think that's still the mindset. If we can get the commission to pass it, then we can make up the rules afterwards. We don't need to make them up now.
Right.
We just need a commissioner to say, yeah, it's okay to do it. Well, now we start writing up with the rules on it.
Right.
Well, if you've got a planning commission, then you know what? Present a plan to the commission so they can look at it, and then they can vote on it.
Yeah.
But they have no plan, And how on earth can a commissioner vote on something that they can't go back to their constituents and talk about?
Right.
How can you represent me if you can't tell me what you're voting on?
Right. Okay.
That goes against the reason we have government the way it is.
Yeah, 100%. And that's, like I said, been my biggest frustration. I mean, like I said, we talked about it time and time again. The other thing is just the lack of, I guess, upfront, just truthfulness. The problem we have is we're not giving facts really on the front end. You know, we're kind of giving some opinions and some conjecture, but a lot of it's not really rooted deeply in fact. One of I don't remember who it was, somebody said, like, we're the last county or something. We're like the only county over here that don't have any regulations and all this. So once again, so this is just in West Tennessee specifically. It says it consists of 21 counties and 109 incorporated towns. 37% of the jurisdictions do not have active planning commission or planning staff. 8% of the counties and 33% of the towns do not have zoning. 42% do not have subdivision regulations. 44% do not have local building codes or inspectors. However, they are required to follow state codes.
So we're getting some truth to the matter then.
Yeah, a little bit here and there, anyways.
Yeah.
And like I said, that when they called them out, like I said, that was one thing that I found kind of interesting there at the end. I say call them out when there was really the discussion between the general contractors and I believe Jonathan was the one that was having that with them. One of the other things that come up was well, your insurance will just deny you your claim if your home isn't built up to code. That's not true either, because at the end of the day, if your home was built in the 1930s and you try to compare it to 2018 IRC code, it's probably not going to meet code, right? And so, like, at the end of the day, that's just complete nullity. Really, your insurance policy is either an all risk or a specified peril. All risk means pretty much it's included unless it's excluded, and specified peril means we're going to pay for these exact type of losses, right? Like wind, hail. Another one may be earthquake. Generally speaking, earthquake's not included. Foundational subsiding, generally not included, unless you can point to the fact that it came from some type of subsurface sewage. If your septic tank cracked, or if your main waste line coming out cracked and it spilled a bunch of it around your foundation, and all of a sudden your house started settling right there, you have a claim that would be viable for your insurance company to pay for that. And I guess if you're listening and you're the one that gets denied from this guy for hire a public adjuster, you can go out there and fight this all day long. If they went through underwriting and insured your property from losses, they get to bite the bullet when you have an immediate and sudden loss caused by a peril that is qualified under your contract. That's as simple as it can be. So anyways, just want to get on to some Tennessee Code annotated definitions. So subdivision, and all those except those with this very limited range that we don't fall into. This is all counties except those in that subdivision. The division of a tract or parcel of land into 2 or more lots or sites or other divisions requiring new street or utility construction, or any division of less than 5 acres for the purpose, whether immediate or future, of sale or building development, and includes re-subdivision, is the subdividing of land. Alright, and so,
Break that down in some layman's terms.
if you break up your land at all and it is less than 5 acres, or if it's more than 5 acres and you extend utilities or a roadway, you fall into subdivision regulation.
Okay.
Alright, and so when you fall into subdivision regulation, then you need to go to the planning commission to get approved. Alright, and so the regional planning commission says they can adopt a major road plan and blah, blah, blah. In that statute where it talks about that they must come before the regional planning commission, it goes on in section B to say a county register shall not receive, file, or record a plat of subdivision or amendment, modification, or correction thereto without the approval of the regional planning commission. So once again, that's kind of like supposed to be one of your roadblocks, right? When somebody comes up and they got a plat that they're trying to record so that they can start, once again, when they write out deeds, say, oh, tract whatever, we're going to sell tract whatever that's record in this tract or this subdivision plat. The Register of Deeds is supposed to prevent that from being recorded because it has not been approved by the Regional Planning Commission. It talks about, going further, that what the Regional Planning Commission may delegate. Can they delegate the responsibility to a more subset, or can they do it without having to go through the commission? For instance, if it's no more than 5 lots of development, or no more than 25 lots, no development receive preliminary plan approval. Essentially, it's like how many approvals are we gonna have to have? We're gonna have the preliminary, we're gonna have to have post-approval, and once again, a lot of that boils down to is checking on infrastructure. We wanna make sure your road's put in correctly, that you have a road plan, and that once you have this road plan and it's up to some type of engineering standard, that you actually installed it to that standard. Right. And so,
Well, you know, yeah, and I know they have that now, because in the past, there's been issues where some of these subdivisions, they wanted the county to absorb the road, the right of way for the road, so they would maintain it. What the problem on it is the county has never done that unless the road met county standards.
well, and it's not, you're not even allowed to. On TCA 133406, once you have a plating jurisdiction of any regional planning commission of any region has attached by virtue of the making or adopting of that major road plan I talked about before, no county or court or board or officer thereof or any other public officer or authority shall accept, lay out, open, improve, grade, pave, or light any road or lay or authorize water mains or sewers or connections or other facilities in any road located within such region outside the boundaries of a municipal corporation unless such road has been accepted.
Right.
I mean,
The county commission has to accept it as a road. It's
Yeah.
an approved road in the county.
yeah, or has otherwise received legal status of public road prior to the tax like that.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things Steve does annually. He comes in front of the board to give them a road list.
Yeah.
So if there makes any kind of adoption there, that's what it would go for.
100%. Yeah.
And I'm sure if there, I doubt, but I mean, let's just say a lane or something got cut off, you know, they chopped it up and decided not, you know, that would probably be removed to go there.
Right.
But yeah, and see, what I keep hearing here, regional planning commission.
Yeah.
So all this was already existing. We didn't even need to create a planning commission.
No, we had that through Southwest Tennessee Development District.
Yeah.
And like I said, I mean, there's not a lot of people that understand that. Like I said, I mean, it's not very well known, and I don't know if they just did a very poor job of, I guess, bringing it to light and letting everybody know, or if local government officials don't do a very good job of connecting them together. Like, hey, by the way, you know, if you want to develop a subdivision, here's the people you need to go through. Southwest Tennessee Development District oversees it. Enforcement is still through the county, right? And so, like, why they don't really work more hand in hand together, I don't really know.
Well, who would actually be doing the enforcement on the county level?
Well, right here. So penalties for transferring lots and unrecorded subdivisions. So first off, the owner or the agent of land shall not transfer, cause to represent to a prospective purchaser of land, the roads or streets will be constructed by county or other political subdivision, things like that. All right, and it says the county, through the county attorney or other official designated by the legislative body, may pursue an injunction or other appropriate remedy for a violation of this subsection.
Okay, so pretty much this here would actually need, the county attorney would take this here, take it up, file litigation. I'm assuming this is going to be a civil matter going into Chancery. Okay, so bottom line is we could resolve all of this stuff here without having all this planning commission with all this control.
Right.
Everything is already there on the books.
Well, and I mean, at the end of the day, we can even do it now. We don't have to do this residential home inspection program and all of this other stuff. I mean, there are things in here that gives you another check, right? Once again, how I said earlier, where you go in before the register and they're not supposed to report it, right? That's supposed to be a roadblock.
Right.
Well, same thing sometimes with the building permits and stuff like that. That's supposed to be another roadblock,
Right.
But at the same time, if you're not living in a home, you're not going to hit that roadblock to begin with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So then,
I'm starting to see why you got thrown out of the courthouse. You shouldn't know so much.
yeah, I shouldn't apparently,
You know, well, you're not
or
supposed
share it
to,
with them.
That's right. You're not supposed to. There you go. You're not supposed to do any research and understand. Look, we are in at a minute, $1:23. We need to shut this thing here down pretty quick. I want to take. We've got some comments up here. I want to get to it. There's a lot more to be discussed, and as you see, Blake has been studying this, and I mean he has got quite a few. Is there any other ones you want to hit real quick that you think is?
No, I'm just going to leave these with you. These are 3 different opinions,
Oh, really?
appellate courts.
Okay.
Yeah, so Lofton v. Langston is probably one of the, I don't know, premier ones. One of the first, 1991 in Maury
So
County.
we've got case law then.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and this almost pretty much the same thing. This guy had this actually a little even better. He had a farmhouse in the back of his property, easement driveway, ran from public road to the highway. Said deed showed the easement being 60 feet wide. It was on a narrow road. Well, this guy went in and regraded it, put chert on it, dug ditches alongside of it. He even went and talked to the Duck River Electric Membership Corporation. and installed a 6-inch water pipe along through there the whole night, ready to go, right, to make sure everybody there was taken care of. Well, his opinion was that he didn't have to go for the planning commission because there wasn't a requirement to need a road because he'd already provided said road, right? Why'd I have to go through the planning commission? You're just going to go out here and, tell me I need a road, but I already put a road there, right? And so they categorically shot that down because they said that, well, at that point you got the statute. It's not whether or not you have a road, it's whether a road is required to gain access to these lots, right? And at that point, the planning commission gets to come in and oversee that to make sure that, once again, for everybody's health and public safety, that it's developed to some standard that's going to hold, and that you're not going to end up out there owning a lot with a road you can't even drive a four-wheeler on.
Right. Kind of like out there, some of those roads out there, Twin Rivers was good.
Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly.
And up there in Peregrine Estates, up there in just one.
Yeah. And so that's exactly what this gets to. And like I said, there's 3 different opinions that go into this. It's pretty much verbatim the exact same thing. So I just don't understand why we're not doing anything. And one of the main things that can somewhat prevent, I guess, going after it was that they already have this land transferred in the county register. Well, from my understanding, they haven't done any recording of any deeds because everybody's under a lease to own kind of thing and nothing's recorded.
Well, and everything, and it's not the most accurate thing, but everything under Tennessee Property Data Bureau, and they're pretty good within about 6 months they'll have transfers done. Mm-hmm. Everything is still owned. I believe it's SEG MD has got, I think that's Twin Rivers, and Classic Country has got Whiskey Ridge.
That's another
either that, it's either that or Flip Flop, vice versa. But yeah, everything went, and I did not check every single lot, but pretty much every lot that I went on and clicked on, it's still showing the ownership to the LLC. And both of these LLCs are based in Allen, Texas.
Right.
So you pretty much know how to deal with the money is the same company.
Right.
They just under 2 different corporate umbrellas.
Yeah.
But they maintain ownership of the land.
Yeah.
And this, to me, I mean, everything that goes in here, is easy to take and come back in here and fix the problems right now.
Right.
And that's what just blows my mind is they don't want, why they're creating new things that's going to impact every single person in this county instead of going after issues that they talk about.
Yeah.
That's a major concern.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, I guess that's my thing is if we already have laws on the books, we're not enforcing them. And then they even go on to say, well, we need more laws on the books, but we're not going to enforce them. Yeah, we're not going to enforce them. Like, what do we do?
That's it. To me, that allows them to pick and choose who they want to enforce the laws on.
Exactly. It's arbitrary.
Yeah,
it's arbitrary.
That's it.
And my whole thing with it is, and we can kind of wrap up on this, is with subdivisions, I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I just don't think that everybody else, all the other taxpayers in the county or ratepayers, should subsidize your development. At the end of the day, you should pay for it. If you're going out and developing land and you're going to sell it off and make a bunch of money, and you're doing it for the purpose of, once again, people having access and they're going to have a home down here, you should go through planning so that they can make sure that you have, once again, a lot that actually perks out. You know what I'm saying? You put a septic on it. It's not going to be just useless. You're going to have electric to it because it's going to be needed at some point in time. And that it's going to be usable land.
Right, yeah, I kind of look at it, I mean, as a developer, it should be making access of the thing. Whether it's regional or local,
Right.
They should be making use of that thing.
Yeah.
That's just smart business. It's kind of the way I see it.
Right.
And it's just like the contractors who stated the other night. I mean, if they're building up, if they're going out and getting a permit, that's just smart business. Because, when you do that there, it's saying, hey, you know what? I don't mind going and getting a permit because I know my work's going to be right. I don't mind the inspections.
Yeah.
So, and when you, that's a pretty simple thing to find out there to see what, what contractors who's not going to go out and get a permit and have inspections done, get rid of them. You don't need them.
Right.
There's plenty of other contractors that we've got that does a great job.
Yeah.
And that's what it really gets down to.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take and check some of these things on Facebook here, see what kind of comments we got. 'Cause I know I'd seen Jack comment on something else and Blake Stanfield here. All righty. Jack was saying it's not always a no vote. The majority of votes, yes or no, determine who can bring a subject up again. Okay, all right. Well, I appreciate that clarification. And then this particular situation here, because that did that failed, that means it would be a no vote that would have to bring it back up again. And that's what I'm reading, what he's saying there is, if it passed, then it would have been a yes vote that could bring it back up again. But if it fails, a no vote can bring it back up again. So, appreciate the clarification on that there, Jack. Blake Stanfield, we was a borderline 4 last ISO. We have added additional tankers as well as 2 new fire stations. As a fireman, we are working hard to get that for the rating. And I appreciate that, Dan. You know, like I said, man, I've got a lot of respect and admiration for our firefighters in the county. You know, and I'll say this here again. They're volunteers.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you what,
Fantastic.
If somebody would have jumped up in here, if one of those commissioners would have jumped up and said, hey, you know what, instead of giving a raise, let's take the money, we're going to use that for a raise and disperse it out to our firemen, hell yeah, dude, I'd get right behind you.
100%.
Yeah, I'd stand up for that.
Yeah. I mean, we ought to be the model for a lot of other counties. I mean, at the end of the day, we've got a fantastic fire rating with fire resources that don't cost us a tremendous amount of money.
No, not when you look at our fire cap.
No.
And get started on that.
But really, I mean, fantastic. And,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But just to go back with Blake, from my understanding, when talking to Cody, was that the building home inspection program wouldn't get us enough points to move us there. Cody explained that the main thing was our coverage areas. You know, there's two areas, I believe he said.
And he brought that up in the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shady Oaks is getting one.
Yep. And then I believe there's one other area that I guess largely timberland or something like that doesn't have one. It's within a 5-mile range, from my understanding. But yeah, man, we've got a fantastic fire department.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, and you know, it's just like where, you know, 3 is not far from me. Actually, I guess I'm close to 3 and 1. But they've got a satellite station out on Union Cross. You know, it's not. It's just down a satellite station. I guess it's just something that by having it there, it actually helps our ISO.
Right.
But you know, and that was one of the things I talked with him about and with Lynn about was, you know, we're going to have to get to paying firefighters, which you know I don't disagree with. Unfortunately, we just financially we can't. There's no way we can even get to that point there anytime in the near future. But you know, that's when we start getting to the point of getting ISO rating down. But yeah, like I said, you know, I've talked to insurance agents, and you know, and this was conversation I had with Mark before he passed away. That's the soul. You know, we are in a very, very good spot. There's even a county handbook for county firefighters on the state level that I've gone back and looked at. And that's one of the things they're talking about is ISO 5. That's a sweet spot we're in right now.
Right.
You know, for our men and women to get out there and get us to this point and maintain it, and that they are moving up to the next level, you know, kudos. I mean, you know, definitely kudos. They're not taking anything away, but you know, still, I don't know what gain we're gonna get from giving up some freedoms, and I'm just not willing to give up freedoms.
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily the, I guess, from my understanding, the freedom part is it's going to be $1 million plus expenditure between we have those additional fire stations and we also have that little more full-time employees. And so that was my thing with it.
Come on now, let's discuss the Hogwash comment a little bit more. If you think for 1 second that we have not lost some excellent officers from LPD due to pay, I've got some land I'd like to sell you. Instead of just throwing out rhetoric, how about putting out some facts together and letting everybody know the truth? Well, you know what? I mean, how many have we lost to Jackson? If you know this information, please share it. I mean, you're more than welcome to come up in here on this podcast at any point in time, sit down and share the information you have. And it's a wide open venue. We invite everybody. And we post when we're going to do it. Obviously, we won't be having anything next week for vacation, but yeah, come on up here, Trent Harris. Bring out what you got to show. Bring us some facts. I mean, I'd be more than happy to listen to it. You know, have we lost some to Highway Patrol? Hell yeah, we have.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you what, we lose a lot of people to Highway Patrol.
Yeah.
And there's a reason we lose people to Highway Patrol is that pay is a hell of a lot better.
Right.
But you know, tell you what though,
You're moved all around the state.
you won't get moved around.
Yeah.
Now, I've got friends of mine in THP that have told me the same thing. You pretty much going to go somewhere, and eventually you'll make it back home.
Right.
But you know, you got to move out. That's one of the it's up to you whether you consider that an upside or a downside.
Right.
But yeah, their pay by far is a hell of a lot better. No doubt about that.
Right. But we couldn't even come close to matching that to begin with.
No.
I mean, even if we did go up, and I go back and forth on whether or not it would be a good idea to maybe have some increase. Because I think what are they starting at, 42 or 44? Is that what I'm saying for the LPD? If I'm not mistaken, I think it's somewhere around there. And so it's it's not a tremendous amount. At the same
40,
time,
46, 7.
oh, right, so it's a little more than I thought.
Yeah, for a patrol officer starts around about 47. Now, also, what you got to look at is you get a take-home vehicle.
Yeah,
100% of your insurance paid for. 60% of your family insurance is paid for.
yeah,
And that was something that kind of blew my mind the other night. I think I was asking, if I remember correctly, there's 9 people that work for solid waste,
I think so.
and the comment was made that the benefits alone, the health insurance is $72,000 a year for 9 people. That's a lot of damn money.
Yeah.
That's close to $10,000 a person.
Mhm.
But and let me go back in here and say, this is from LPD's web. This is from I think it's from their website. Yeah, LexingtonTennesseeGovernment.gov. Right there, they start 40s, and that's for somebody that's green.
Right,
I'm sure they're probably putting them through the academy at that point in time
right.
frame.
Investing some money.
Right. But patrol officers can make all the way up to 54.8.
Yeah.
And let's look at Jackson. Jackson starts off at $24.12 an hour. 2040, 2008.
I don't remember what it is. I think maybe 80 or something.
I think you're right. 24.12 times 52 times 4, 2080, which is, that starts off at $50,000. So, we're
Pretty prepared.
we're about $3,500 less than what it starts off in Jackson.
And that's a lot worse.
Yeah.
A lot worse.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Lexington doesn't have some crime
No,
issues.
no,
I'm not
we
saying,
do.
but it ain't anywhere.
Yeah.
It ain't even in the ballpark.
I mean, you go to Slim Chicken, you get shot over there. I mean, any place. It's like little Memphis.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. That's bottom line is we can't keep getting that point where all we're doing is putting money in the salaries and
Right.
raises.
Right.
Because what eventually happens there is where we are right now. We have major issues with our infrastructure.
Right. And no money spent.
Right, and we're still trying to get down there to take a look at what's going on down there at the sewer plant.
Right. Yeah.
And heck,
And her.
just to give you some upside on that, insight on that there, I guess it's been about a month,
Yeah. At least a month. Now.
yeah, maybe a month and a half.
Yeah.
Blake mentioned something about going out there to take a look at the sewer plant, that there's some problems out there.
Yeah. Supposedly some of the aldermen have been out there. Which is correct.
Some.
Yeah.
Not
all.
Not all,
Yeah.
but some. Because some have not.
Mhm.
And I talked to one today, hasn't been out there but knows about the problem. But, we've been trying to get out there to go see it, and we just can't get the department head to
Been telling.
meet us out there.
Yeah.
So we don't know what's going on, but apparently this is going to be a major project. And this is something that, I had a conversation with an alderman today about this, and this is a concern, is this is going to be a major project when that happens. This is going to cost a crap load of money,
Mhm.
which means we're going to have to go deeper in debt,
Yeah.
borrow money to fix that. That's a problem. We're not doing preventive maintenance. We're not staying ahead of the game. All we're doing is reactionary maintenance,
Yeah.
and that ain't worth a damn.
Yeah. And generally emergency reaction.
Yeah, that's it. And that was one of the things that, if you notice, it didn't pass. And Tim Rhodes brought up in a meeting. He argued it when they were trying to get that. I can't remember the term that they had for it. Purchasing policy, I think is what it was.
Yes.
And they got up there and this was, Tim was extremely intelligent in how he articulated this here. You want us to give authority so, I guess Cody could make the decision to purchase something. And, Tim's like, well, what if it costs $200,000? Sam's like, well, that's what it costs, $200,000, but we need it. Well, you got to figure out where the hell you're going to pay for $200,000.
All right.
If you just give somebody a blank check and say, here, write whatever we need,
That's
and
right.
you're not doing anything to maintain it,
Right.
that's a dangerous precedent you're set.
Yeah.
The whole point of it is any money that gets transpired, gets moved around, transpired maybe, that term, that gets shifted,
Transfer.
transferred, handled, whatever. All of that has to go through the board. And the reason being is we're dealing with tax dollars here. That is the whole premise of our government, of having us have electing government officials to manage the money.
Yeah.
So we have accountability with our dollars.
Yeah.
Some of these people don't like the fact that, us and anybody else who gets out here and talks about it, they hate the fact that we bring this here up. You know what? It's our money. We have every right to.
Yeah.
I've got business license sitting right over there I got to pay for. Costs me money to operate. Every time I go down the street here, I pay and purchase something from my neighbors. It costs me a sales tax. That's my money that goes into the coffers. I've got to pay it. I've got to pay personal property taxes. I'm going to tell you right now, when the property taxes increased here the last 2 years, my rent went up. I'm not upset at all with my landlord.
Right.
This is an investment. I would expect him to go up. And he did. You know what? It is what it is. I mean, I'm paying it. So I got a voice. Everybody wants to look at things differently, but it's our money being spent. So yes, we do have a voice, and that's the reason we have elected officials that actually handle all of the money. That's how government is set up.
You're stewards of public funds.
That's it.
Yeah.
And they should know what's going on. They should make the decisions.
100%. Yeah. And do it in an informed manner.
Yes.
Like I said, that's the main thing. I think that's the problem right now is you're making decisions on very limited information.
That's it. That's what it boils down to. Anyway, we made this thing an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
We're going to shut it down for tonight. Like I said, we're off next week, and we'll come back in. Right now, we've only got 2 people that have signed up for. Yeah, you're going to definitely pick a date you want at some point in time frame. I expect we'll get more now that, like I said, with people signing up. But we're going to bring candidates on. We are extending this invitation again, just in case anybody says we haven't, because I have texted everybody except for Mr. Thomas, and I did contact Pastor Campbell because he said he would pass that along for me. So yeah, we've been in contact with everybody who's running. So any candidate who wants to come up here on this show, you just tell me. We have hour-long block set up. We'll ask questions. Citizens can jump in and ask questions, and then we're going to give them a time, to make a sales pitch to you. Why they need your vote. Who decides to come up is up to them. We can't force them to do anything. That's totally their choice. But this is a platform that, I'm sure you guys probably look at the view numbers that are on our videos. Let me explain something to you. There's a difference between that number and actual how many people watch a video. The view numbers that you see down there, that's like
A fraction.
well, what that is the number of members that view it.
Gotcha.
People who are
But
actually
you're an open group.
right. People who actually signed up. Where am I at here? Like right now, we've got 653 views. Once we conclude the video, I'll probably have about 15 minutes and my algorithm will catch up with Facebook. So right now, 653 views. That is 653 numbers that they're looking at. Okay. Generally, membership watching a video is about a quarter to a fifth of how many people actually watch it. We've got people, I've got people from different countries that watch it. Friends of mine that I met across the world who just pay attention to the stuff every now and then. They'll watch the video and they'll laugh at us. We get laughed at quite a bit for our corruption. It is what it is. But other people in the state, fortunately we've got some politicians at the state level, a couple on the federal level pay attention to it. It's people watch our videos, so yeah, it's a good platform to take and share to get for candidates to come up here and get it out there.
Right.
And I'm hoping, regardless of whatever happens with the election, dude, you'll always have a seat here, man. I enjoy having you up here. Your knowledge, that's. I'm going to say this here, and I'm going to make a plug for Great West Money. He's been talking about this here since it came out. And he's got some knowledge of it because he's actually been involved with subdivision planning and all that. So he's got some knowledge on how this whole thing works. And then being an attorney, he understands how to read what's stated in Tennessee Code Annotated, and can apply that back into a sense that makes it easier for most people to understand. His value there is amazing. I can't say it any other way. He brings something to the table that we really need it. And kudos for you, dude. Because I'm going to tell you right now, it's having this here. To me, it is an extremely beneficial asset, not just to the paid, but for the citizens.
I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, I mean, you've and at some point, probably in October, I'm expecting probably after October 1st, we'll end up doing a kind of a sideshow and just kind of catch you up on how Blake and I actually came to know each other and met, and something that we worked on together, and getting there. I'll say this: I appreciate what you do for the citizens too. That's you know what? Sometimes it's a thankless job, and sometimes you get thrown out of courthouses for it. But I mean, it's. You may not always hear it, but I know the people appreciate it, and I appreciate it as well. Anyway, anything else in closing, brother?
I think that's it. I appreciate it.
Y'all have a wonderful night, and we will see y'all sometime after July 4th weekend. Have a good one. Stay safe out there.